Welcome to Trekosophy, the Star Trek philosophy podcast. Joining us this evening, our commander, our fearless leader. He never gives up, he never surrenders. It's Ben McLean.
Pedal to the metal.
And our technical guru, who can keep anything running with half a beryllium sphere and a roll of duct tape. It's Chris McGee.
Yeah, about that. I think the sphere's going to explode in about 10 seconds or so. We're all going to die a horrible, fiery death. Just thought you might want to know.
And her one job is to repeat everything the computer says. Say hello to Hillary Muckovitz.
My one job is to repeat whatever the computer says. It's my only job, and I'm going to do it.
And I'm Bill Allen, a.k.a. the guy in the red shirt. And this week we're going to talk about Galaxy Quest.
Yeah. So basically, when was Galaxy Quest made?
1999.
1999.
And who was the Mr. Famous actor guy who was the Kirk character in it?
Tim Allen.
That was Tim Allen, right? The guy from Home Improvement. He is one of the two guys from Toy Story. Isn't he Woody?
Yeah, no, he was Buzz Lightyear.
He's Buzz. Oh, of course he's Buzz, because the whole space thing, yeah.
Yeah.
They must have seen Galaxy Quest and be like, that's a perfect voice for Buzz. Anyway.
Yeah, it had a top-notch cast. You know, Alan Rickman, who always does well in movies no matter what.
Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver. And you can't, if you make a sci-fi movie with Sigourney Weaver in it, it's going to be a success, no matter how bad the movie is. She was the reason people went to see Paul.
I haven't even heard of that one, so it must have sucked.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw it because of
Simon Pegg
and Pegg and Frost, because I've seen all their other stuff and it did not compare.
No, but come on, Sigourney Weaver showing up at the end and she's the villain made it worth it.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver is great in everything she's in.
Yeah.
It was one of those "what are you doing in this terrible movie" moments.
Well, before we go any further, probably ought to explain to our listeners who that new voice is or belongs to.
Oh, yes.
We have a new voice?
Well, Brandy'd been drinking kind of heavily, and one thing led to another.
Hello.
Some people go for tattoos. He went a little... No. Ladies and gentlemen, Hillary Muckovitz is joining us. She's one of our longtime fans, longtime listeners, and she's frankly making better comments than any of us are when she responds on Facebook, so we decided to invite her to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and we're proceeding on the theory that she is in fact a girl.
We're making a big assumption here.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm still thinking my Brandon Kirby theory. It's Brandon in disguise. That's
You can have a little voice changer or something on. We don't know.
I'm like, Hillary's here and Brandon's not.
They're never in the same room together at the same time.
But wait, that's exactly what they were a few minutes ago. Okay, so enough with the yucks.
So yeah, tell us a little about yourself quickly, Hillary, and your connection, interest to Star Trek and/or philosophy.
Okay. I'm a middle school librarian in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. I've been a Star Trek fan since about 94 in high school. And my philosophy background is a lot more limited. Just, a few classes, a few theology books, but found this an interesting podcast.
Away. We're very glad to have you in all seriousness.
Thank you.
So, a bit back to our topic for the episode.
Right.
Galaxy Quest is pretty much a Star Trek parody. You might even say it's the Star Trek parody. I mean, it's the one that everyone remembers the most, I think. But there have been a lot of different Star Trek parodies, but Galaxy Quest, I think, was pretty significant. I mean, almost as significant as an actual Star Trek film, I'd say.
This is what makes this a special kind of parody. It falls into that unique category. It's not parodying the plot of Star Trek as much as it is parodying the production of Star Trek. It's not about the space, it's about the actors. So Tim Allen
and the surrounding culture too. It does a lot of that.
Right. The fans, the internet, where the actors came from and where they go now. You know, Alan Rickman, who is the Spock analog.
Yeah, he's kind of a cross between Spock and Patrick Stewart.
He is, with that whole, I played Richard the Third, for God's sake. I had 5 curtain calls. Now I'm a squid-headed alien. What's wrong with me?
That sounded like one of your introductions, Bill.
It should have been.
Anyway.
But I'm scared of Alan Rickman, so I don't want to make too much fun of him.
Okay. Anyway, so I think it holds a special place for fans of Star Trek, and even though the general populace may have forgotten this film, I think a lot of us remember it because it has a lot to say, and it has some things to say to the actors that it's about, and some things to say to the fans, and about the whole Star Trek culture in general.
And in a lot of ways, I think it might be the kind of thing that it's the kind of thing the actors want to say. I mean, I've never heard what William Shatner thought of this movie, but they've all talked about their journeys in various ways.
I think he called it his own personal horror film at one point, but I could be wrong.
Call it because he probably remembers those days. And
let me look up the quote. If it's a real quote, I'll keep talking and I'll do the research real quick.
Because it's the kind of thing. I mean, over the years, with 40 some odd years of Star Trek, almost 40, we're coming up on the big 40.
That's right.
Big 50. Oh, wow. We've already had 40 years of Star Trek. We're coming up on 50 years.
2016, yep.
But with 50 years of that, these actors have gone through the whole spectrum of, they had a lot of fun doing the show. And then it was they got tired of they got typecast. They wanted to do other things. Some of them hated the show from the beginning. It was just a paycheck. Some of them love the show, hate the fans. Some of them love the show, love the fans. And some of them over that whole 50-year period have gone up and down a dozen times. It's the roller coaster ride of Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And it also goes, I think, a little bit deeper to what every actor kind of wishes would happen. I mean, actors, they play a role, and I think deep down, they kind of want to be Kirk. They want to be in that chair. They want to have the adventure themselves and not just pretend to have it. And it's almost a wish fulfillment with a little touch of the old "be careful what you wish for" thrown on top of it.
Hey guys, the quote I said was completely wrong. That was Stephen Glass on the film Shattered Glass who said that. Here's what Shatner said about Galaxy Quest. He says, I thought it was very funny, and I thought the audience that they portrayed was totally real, but the actors they were pretending to be were totally unrecognizable.
Okay.
Well, and it says he was jokingly setting himself up.
Yeah.
That the only one he could recognize was Nichelle Nichols.
Yeah. So, the Shatner, at least when he's on camera, he usually keeps pretty good humor. It's all these rumors about off camera, he's not been the best person to work with in the years since his glory days. You know what I mean? We talked about that in the Shatner episode we did a long while back.
Yeah. Well, he actually recently, relatively recently, has kind of come to terms with his role as Kirk, and he's not quite as mean to the fans anymore.
And yeah, he's mellowed out, and I think some of the fans have grown up a little too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because the fans were pretty extreme. I mean, it's hard to blame the embittered actors entirely when the fans have really been real jerks a lot of the time too.
Yeah, they take things way over the top, or they just
they're nuts.
They're nuts.
Which is shown very well in the film too. Yes.
I don't know if this was Justin Long's first movie or just one of his first, but I remember him as Mr. Superfan.
Oh yeah, Mr. Superfan getting to live out his ultimate dream of being in the episode.
I just want you to know that I know the show's not real. It's all real. I knew it. Deep down, we all wanted to get beamed up. We all wanted to go for a cruise around the galaxy.
All right, so let's say, what about Galaxy Quest makes it such a memorable parody of Star Trek?
Well, Tim Allen really nailed what was funny about the Shatner. For first of all, and it plays on all the cliches really well.
All
yeah,
right,
I think that's really what gets it. It does all the cliches, and part of what made them cliches is you see it so often over and over again that when you're telling a story, there's no more growth anymore. You know, at the end of it, it's going to end with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy joking around by the captain's chair. So that potential for character development isn't there as much with something that has become iconic, that has become a major cultural influence in its own. And yet with a movie like Galaxy Quest, you have character development, not of the characters, but of the actors playing the characters as they become better people.
Yeah, it definitely has a. Well, there's all this postmodern philosophy stuff that I think it might touch on. Well, I don't know if I want to call it philosophy; it's more ideology. But there's all this postmodern stuff about how, in a postmodern society, we have everything that is real gets replaced with vicarious images. And you can get the lectures by Rick Roderick, which I've recently been listening to, which talk about this, about how to relate this the best way. Well, pretty much, we used to admire real things or things we experienced ourselves. Sports, for example, was you actually go out and kick a ball around.
Like military heroes.
Or yeah, we'd admire military heroes, but as culture modernized and sort of postmodernized, we switched to an almost exclusive focus on spectator sports, and not even local spectator sports, but televised spectator sports where everything it turns out to be really fake. And instead of a real fight, it's these wrestling matches where everything is fake, and instead of a real woman, it's this photoshopped advertisement. And so one of the themes in this film, which I don't know whether we would have picked up on unless I brought this up, is this distinction between appearance and reality, and where they're so completely divorced from anything real at the beginning of the film. They're just totally burned out and tired of everything being so fake all around them. Their lives being built on so many, layers of lies. But then all of a sudden it's real. And then what do you do then? It's like,
and that's part of what happens, because why we enjoy Star Trek, I think, is the ideal it represents, the idealized perfect world, the better world, the amazing future where there really are heroes cruising the galaxy. And it is just a dream, but every now and then you get a situation where you have to live up to that fake image. You have to live up to that heroic symbolism that we put up there. You have to actually be the hero that you've always pretended to be for real. And it's where you find out that the dream, that Roddenberry's dream, even though it gets lost in the shuffle sometimes, the dream about humanity's potential is still there, and we could still fulfill it.
Yeah. The Captain America movie recently touched on this. The military wanted to reduce Captain America to being a mere propaganda tool, if you remember right, and not have him go actually fight real Nazis. But he rises above that to go and actually do the real thing. And so yeah, it's a big contrast between appearance and reality. So there's our osophy for our
yeah, I was going to say you guys got a lot more deep than I would have expected for this.
Well, I'll
episode.
be honest with you. The first thing is it's a cool movie. That's
yeah.
But no, there is. I mean, part of what makes it cool is it does have those layers. It is. Years ago, I used to date an actress, and if you've ever hung out with actors, whether it be in theater or television or whatever, there are so many pretentious people that they're going to mention Dostoevsky at some point, just to mention Dostoevsky at some point. And it's like, just stab, stab, stab. These people are nuts.
I've been thinking of trying to mention Dostoevsky on this show. I just haven't had a chance to yet.
Well, see, you're a philosopher. That's different. You're supposed to mention, but these are. I mean,
the one part in Brothers Karamazov where he says, "Anything is permissible if God does not exist."
I'm sorry, I was saying Dostoevsky. I meant Stanislavski. That's the one the actor.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
That makes more sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
Dostoevsky. Yeah, I'm thinking Dostoevsky. I'm thinking, okay, Brothers Karamazov.
Yeah. Well, they also dropped that name too. Their big name drop, but it's Stanislavski is the.
I was gonna say I don't even know who either of them are. So.
Well, one was a Russian literaturist and the other was a Russian theater playwright.
Right.
Developed, what was it? Was it the method? Was that his method acting? That was his?
Stanislavski was the method. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me double check that.
I'm more of I prefer the whole something. I'm not sure I'm well versed enough in acting theory to really be absolutely sure.
Well, bottom line,
but I think I personally am more inclined to more classical type notions of acting.
Bottom line is, and I hate to, throw out stereotypes, and I'm sure I'm going to offend somebody, but actors are pretty much the epitome of drama queens. They are all about drama. That's basically their job, so they have to be drama queens. And it just, they have this superficiality and artificiality about them that just kind of seeps into everything they do.
With egos the size of Texas.
Yeah, and it turns them into these just jaded cynics, and they don't even see it as cynicism. They think their fakeness is the real them, and that for some of them they're more alive when they're on stage than they are off stage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an odd kind of screwy, interesting. I mean, I love theater, and I liked all these guys. They were great. Yes, my friends were all crazy, but so am I. So it all balances out.
I think that might be a good segue into something else I wanted to talk about in regard to Galaxy Quest, and that is the parallels I see between Galaxy Quest and a much older film, Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane is a 1941 film by director Orson Welles, who you may have heard of because of some events in connection with the planet Mars. He was the guy behind the whole War of the Worlds Halloween prank that convinced a whole bunch of people that the Martians were really coming, and that's just how good he was at theater.
I just remember him as having voiced Unicron.
Unicron.
Transformers, the Transformers movie, the first big animated movie they did.
Oh, okay.
And oh man, did I hate that? Okay, you're Hot Rod. You're a souped-up race car. Okay. And then all of a sudden, you finally unlock the power of the Matrix, and you become Rodimus Prime. So you go from being a race car to an El Camino with a camper shell on it. Really?
Where's your willing suspension of disbelief, Bill?
Okay, you go from something cool to something cooler when you finally power up. You don't transform from a Corvette to an El Camino. Oh, I'm better now. Come on.
So... kind of like Goku with the hair, then.
Yeah, that it's like you have to go through phase 3 to get to phase 4, and I think phase 4 was all right. Phase 5 got weird, but no, that's.
I didn't even know there was a phase 5 for Goku.
Maybe it is just phase 4 was no. It's like.
Okay, we're getting way off track here. Let's steer it back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Don't get me started.
That's my job. I have one job, and by God, I'm going to do it.
Okay, so Citizen Kane, back to where we were. Citizen Kane is Orson Welles' magnum opus. It's his. He certainly saw it as his greatest work, and it completely revolutionized film with all of its amazing new cinematic techniques and technological improvements to the art of filmmaking. And you talk to any film student and you say, you reference something in Citizen Kane, and they're going to pick it up because it's the movie that all film students have seen. Yeah. Or if they haven't seen, then they're freshmen. But yeah. So Citizen Kane follows, of course, the life of this guy whose name is Kane, but Kane is an analog for someone in real life. and someone who was still alive at the time and very much a public figure. William Randolph Hearst, who was basically the newspaper kingpin. He was the guy who created the propaganda, molded public opinion with his chain of newspapers. And Orson Welles was really calling him out for being a real scumbag, at least when he started making the film. When he started making the film, he was making him basically out to be a horrible person. And in some ways, he probably was a horrible person, and so is Kane in the film. But over the course of the film, Welles started to see all of these ways in which he was just like this old Hearst guy. And he ends up playing him in a bizarrely more sympathetic way. And it's just really weird to see how this character is brought so much to life by Welles. Anyway, just as Citizen Kane is a parody of... Oh, by the way, if you wanted a current day analog for this Hearst guy, think Rush Limbaugh.
Or Rupert Murdoch.
I was going to say Rush Limbaugh. I don't know.
Yeah, Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch.
Rupert Murdoch,
okay.
more like.
Sure, that'll work too. Guy
More
who's
all-encompassing.
guy who's probably, yeah, but a guy who's a molder of public opinion, but in his personal life doesn't live up to half the things he says or promotes. So in many ways, Galaxy Quest is to William Shatner what Citizen Kane is to this Hearst guy, in that it is sort of a parody of his life and some of the extreme things that he's done or faces, and it's kind of a critique on his life in some ways and how he acts some of the time. And I don't mean acts on screen. I mean how he acts out, some of the time. And it plays him somewhat sympathetic some of the time because those fans really are just nutty, and they do kind of drive him bonkers. On the other hand, though, he does blow up at him and overreacts, and acts like a jerk. And at that point, Shatner was doing that, but it wasn't an all harsh kind of truth,
Mm-hmm.
It was balanced.
Sympathetic.
And it ended up being a little sympathetic. So there's all kinds of similarities there, and I think of one thing is Hearst had a wife he kind of neglected in this huge palace he built for her, and she's so bored because he never spends any time with her that she spends all her time putting together jigsaw puzzles. Welles saw that in real life and then put that into the movie. And there's a lot of little things like that. That's sort of a cliched kind of thing. That's kind of how Galaxy Quest picks up on the cliches that it does. Kind of spots things in real life and then puts them in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of the basis for all good comedy, is picking up on things that are real and true and highlighting them.
But doing it in a way that's not hurtful. That's what makes them comedy instead of a serious drama.
Yeah, well, some comedies are kind of hurtful, or at least some things that purport to be comedies are hurtful to some people.
Well, there's a mean kind of humor, but it's still not the same because it is still...
And I don't think this thing was trying to be mean.
No, and I think that's what works about Galaxy Quest. I think it falls into the parody of A Mighty Wind, where it's both a parody and a valentine to what the subject matter is.
Yes, it's making fun of itself. It's not just making fun of something else. I think the guy who wrote this movie was himself a Trekkie.
Oh, clearly.
And it's not just, I'm poking fun of something I don't like, or I'm using it to just tell a different story. It's because the fans know we're crazy. I mean, we acknowledge the fact that we're obsessed, but we're enjoying our obsession nonetheless. Thank you very much.
Hey, we've got a podcast
go to heaven
with philosophy in Star Trek. I mean, how much more niche can you get?
Yeah, you guys enjoy going to heaven. I'm on my way to Tovacor. All right, yeah. But yeah, it's being willing to laugh at yourself, and in a lot of ways, Star Trek has learned to do this. I mean, they even do throwbacks to old references. The new Trek movie, of course, had to have a guy in a red shirt because
Yep.
It was a necessary plot device, and
Right.
it's happened in more than just Star Trek. But for some reason, Star Trek is the image that crystallizes it. You have a lot of people there. Bad things happen. Some of those people are going to die. That's to show you how tense, how dramatic it is.
Well, and on Star Trek, it was so identifiable. It was always the guy in the red shirt. There was
Always
always a specific trait that, like, new guy, red shirt.
The weird thing is,
Ew.
even after they switched colors, so that security became the yellow guys, it was still the red guys who were getting killed.
See, well, they also switched up the memes too. When you start watching The Next Generation, there aren't as many accidents on the planet where crewman number 6 gets died. The big thing that happened through The Next Generation and the later series and the movies, it's the guy whose console explodes and he gets flipped over that guardrail.
Yep.
So, if you've got the whole bridge crew there and then there's crewman Jones in the corner, yeah, he's toast. Something's going to happen.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was pretty much done. Just
Well, that was another thing the Galaxy Quest nailed, was there was a red shirt character in there too.
Oh yeah.
And he was one of my favorites. I mean,
beautifully done.
Yeah.
I have that, and he had his moment of awesome where he grabs the gun and says, "I'm going to go face down these 50 aliens. It'll buy you some time. I know I'm going to die, but I'm meant to die. I'm the guy in the red shirt. If it has to happen, let it be cool and not pathetic, And I think for a lot of us, that's, well, to make it fit for a philosophical podcast, I'm going to quote the old poet. Do not go gently into that good night. Did I even quote that right?
Yeah,
I should
but
know
do
which
not go
poet
in.
that is, but I
Dylan
don't.
Thomas.
Oh, okay.
Dylan. Oh, it's do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light.
Yes. In a lot of ways, that's part of the underlying theme of this whole movie. These guys are just actors, but every now and then you got to step up and
Be more than who you are. Yeah.
Exactly. We were talking about Stanislavski and the whole method acting where you find something in yourself and you put it out there. And I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of a hero in all of us. We just got to dig deep and bring it out when the time comes.
Okay. I might say something about method acting. I hope it doesn't get us too far off track. But I took a course in acting, and method acting is probably great if you actually have something to draw on for the particular character.
Yeah.
But when you don't, trying to pretend you do is just, well, that it's just stupid. I mean, I was expected to play Stanley from Streetcar Named Desire. And I mean, can you imagine me as Stanley from Streetcar Named Desire? Seriously. Well, I went for a more classical approach where I don't expect to have anything in common with Stanley, and try to say his lines in more of an imitative, dramatic way, pretending to be Stanley rather than trying to draw on anything from my real life. And I sort of gave him the Heath Ledger impression in the end. A drunk Heath Ledger, but still, it was pretty funny.
That makes you Alan Rickman.
Okay. I don't even know who that is.
He was the Spock character from Galaxy Quest. He was
I grabbed
classically
Bob's
trained.
hammer.
Yeah, he hated that line. He hated the character. He was a classically trained actor, so he didn't have a method to pull from, but he could still do it anyway because he was just that good of an actor. He played Richard III, And then the one dude who was actually like sincerely friendly and helpful to him dies in his arms. And that's when he finds it inside himself to say that line he hates, and he really meant it, and he sold it, and he went into his I'm going to kill them all phase, and it was just a great moment.
Yeah, that was great in Galaxy Quest. I don't know if that's so much a triumph for method acting as it is I don't know. I mean, it just seems like he manned up,
Well, it's not necessarily a triumph for method acting, but it's like you were saying, if you don't have that life experience to draw on, method acting doesn't do you any good. Well,
yeah,
he got the experience. He found something in himself. He gained something in himself, and they all did.
Yeah.
And that's what made it, except for Tony Shalhoub, who never really changed in the whole movie.
Yeah, he was the one static character.
Tech Sergeant Chen, he's the rock. He's the anchor.
Oh, he's the stone, but yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
just a bit of trivia, too, by the way, talking about red shirts earlier. The very first person to die on Star Trek was not a red shirt. He was actually wearing the gold color.
Really?
Back in the Assault Vampire episode.
Oh,
Man
yeah.
Trap.
Wait, nobody died in the pilot?
Well, that was the first one to be aired, was the Man Trap.
And in the
Oh,
pilot, they were all wearing gray shirts. Everybody wore gray, so
yeah.
it didn't really have that zing to it just then.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so just a little aside.
You know what would have been funny is if for Galaxy Quest they had actually dug up one of the actual bridge sets. That would have been great.
It would have been good. It would have, but I
But
mean, you don't want to
if
take-
they'd shot near Vasquez Rocks,
yes, they should have done
that
something
would have
near,
been great.
because that's pretty much one of these days. Me and the missus are going to take a road trip out there just to get our picture taken.
Are you going to dress one of you dress up as Gorn and the other as Kirk?
Yeah, probably.
Which is
Oh,
what I want to know.
Well, since Kirk had his shirt ripped off, I'd like her to be Kirk and I'll be the Gorn. But,
Okay.
we couldn't share those photos with people, so it'll probably be the other way around.
Well, we could say a thing or two about women in Star Trek, especially considering first episode we actually have a female contributor on our show. And Galaxy Quest, sort of ruthlessly attacks the shallowness of
Of a lot of most of the women characters in early Trek, yeah.
yeah.
The glorified secretary, I believe, is what Uhura was considered by a lot of fans.
Yeah. They make her useful in the books. But yeah, on the show,
But who
she
reads
seemed
the
to-
books?
There are some great original series novels. One of them is Price of the Phoenix. It's probably the best one. And it's the whole thing about staving off death and finally
Okay, so
having
you
to
read
really...
the books. Okay. I'm
Lots of people read Star Trek.
No,
books.
I'm actually being facetious. I actually have read a few of the next gen novels, and I intend to continue. But
Okay.
Stitch in Time is great.
for the most part, in general, people don't read the books.
Well,
Only
they're
the
considered
really.
outside of canon a good chunk of the
Yeah.
time.
Right.
Oh yeah, none of the books are canon.
And that's, what some of them are, but they're hard to do because, you can't really have that great growth and develop that character growth that we expect to see in our characters in a book, because by the end of the book, they've still got to match what you see on screen. You can't change who they are.
Well, it depends on which kind of book you're reading. You see,
Well, we're going to save that for our non-canonical Trek episode.
Well, no, this
Yes,
is
yes.
this is
Oh,
this
good
is
one.
what we're saying here, because books that are set after the television series is over, or after all whatever related movies are over, they actually do get into some serious character development that goes beyond what we see on screen,
Well,
and it sometimes can be some cool stuff.
no doubt about it. I'm sure you're 100% right, but we want to talk about Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, we tend to wander.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Well,
So,
anyway, my point was they make Uhura useful there, but yeah, she wasn't all that useful on the TV show.
Yeah, since
Well,
we're
her,
talking,
her job wasn't that dissimilar from just repeating what the computer said. The hailing frequencies open.
Yeah. And of course, they nailed that right on the head in Galaxy Quest. They nailed the fandom right on the head too.
But it made it that much funnier having such a powerhouse like Sigourney Weaver playing that role.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
wasn't she pretty much the original female superhero? Was there any? She was for sci-fi anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The first strong female lead.
That Ripley.
Keegan Delancey picks up on that in one of the Voyager episodes. When he starts complaining about how boring Voyager is, he just goes around saying, bipeds pushing buttons.
Yeah.
And basically his argument would be that everyone's job on the whole ship is like that. Just repeating what the computer says. And that goes back to all this postmodern stuff about instrumental reason taking everything over and stuff. Which if you look at the postmodern theorists. I don't know if I'd call them philosophers, but at least theorists. They talk about how we've kind of let computers start to sort of take over thinking for us. Not just women, but all of us. You know what I mean? That's something kind of scary. If you could think, it's only a question of degree to what extent the token black female bridge officer is useless compared to how useless everybody is.
Yep. Women started out as just decorative, and then they became integral part of society just in time for all of society to become decorative.
Right. Yes.
Sorry, Hillary.
That's
failed
about
you.
that's about how it works. I mean, like we were talking about during like the 2008 presidential election of like, well, now it's okay for blacks and women to be in politics because it's so degraded. There's no prestige to the job anymore.
Seems like it.
Wow.
That was actually a quote from Muhammad Ali, I think, way back in the day.
Probably.
Yeah, somebody asked Muhammad Ali, would you ever consider being president? And Muhammad Ali says, absolutely not. And at the end of it, he says, the captain's supposed to go down with a ship. So if they want to make the black man captain, the ship's already taken on water. That was back in the 60s, and times were different. But I just...
that sounds like him, yeah.
That is kind of a funny way of looking at it. I don't know how true that is, but I think it's something to be aware of and careful of. And the original series Trek, spent a good deal of time addressing that with their what was it? The episode where the ship is replacing all the crew's decisions.
Oh well, how many times has Kirk talked the computer to death?
Yeah.
3, 4, 5? I don't know. I've lost count.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking specifically of the one episode where the ship is controlled by a computer that Starfleet.
Yeah, the ultimate computer. Yeah.
Oh, that's the name of it?
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time. But yeah, that one deals with
you don't have Memory Alpha open right now?
What was it, the Mark V, the Mark 8, something like that?
Well, anyways.
You hear 4 keyboards typing at once.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's something actually
M5.
about Star Trek specific. M5. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. And so as we move into the future, would we feel differently if we were all getting replaced by replicas of data? Would it make a difference? Oh,
yeah. We're getting back into the Measure of a Man episode then there, huh?
So you mean by a sentient machine as opposed to?
Yeah, I mean, would it make a difference to us in how much we might resent it or care? I've said before on this show that I actually think that the whole idea of artificial sentience is impossible. I don't believe that's possible. Certainly, I'm sure it's not possible with computers in the sense we have computers now. If we did get that, it wouldn't be a computer anymore. It would be something as different from a computer as a computer is from a rock.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to say an abacus, just a rock. It'd be a radically different kind of thing conceptually from a computer before it got there. But
all right, so back to Galaxy Quest.
Right. So useless jobs, we went over that. The whole thing about the fans and their obsession with all the trivia, I mean, that turns out to help in the end, but is it really healthy? You know what I mean?
Well, that's the funny twist with it is there's the whole William Shatner get a life mentality, and here's somebody that's able to save the day precisely because he didn't.
Right. Yeah. It's it's sort of the double-edged sword. If you tell a story that is so great, people remember it forever. They're going to remember everything about it more than you do. You were just using it for that story. And world building is a big part of making a story that's good and stands out.
Or one that's completely bad, but people get obsessed with anyway, as in the case of Galaxy Quest. Not Star Trek, but Galaxy Quest.
Yeah. But I mean, it's people want to. I mean, in real life, they told the president, the fans got together, wrote a petition, got these signatures mailed off, and had the name of the first space shuttle actually changed to Enterprise.
That was
Because
pretty crazy stuff there.
but it was also sort of a call out. I mean, what is Star Trek all about, really, at the end of the day? It's about humanity going beyond where it is now, being better than it is. And it's something we all want to do. And it represents that. So sometimes people try to do it. And sometimes they might try to do it exactly as it is right now. I'm pretty sure in 10 years we're going to see somebody become a genetic engineer because they want to create Khan and make that future happen.
Wow, they would really misunderstand what Star Trek is about that much that they'd want to make Khan.
Well, you need the bad to make the good worthwhile.
And that would be why they would do it.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Because it gets you one step closer to that unified world utopia that will help unify the world throughout the galaxy.
You know what? I think they might be doing it because they think it'll get them chicks, and then it won't. And that'll be it.
Yeah, that's probably true too.
All right. Well, do we have any final kind of thoughts we want to put on this? Because we're starting to run against our wall here.
See, what else have we covered? So, yeah, we've covered Patrick Stewart.
The motto of the show. Well, the thing I'd like to close on is maybe a thought on the motto of the show and our thoughts on it, not just mine.
Okay.
But, the motto of the show in Galaxy Quest is, never give up, never surrender. And that is actually a theme that runs really strong in Kirk's character, that there is no no-win scenario. That no matter how bad things get, you can really, there is always a way to win or to survive or to succeed. There's no obstacle you can't overcome, So the actors in the end, they find this hokey slogan inspiring in the end. And, I really like that. I think they turn what was in the beginning, a false image,
a cliche.
They turn it real, and it's not just the ship turning out to be real and the technology turning out to be real. But in the end, what the film is really about is the idealism turning out to be real. That's more important than any of the rest of it turning out to be real. And that's what the directors have, or the filmmakers of Star Trek have said in the past, that Star Trek is not about technological progress. It's really about human values in the end. And so, that's why we can have a philosophy podcast about it. But never give up, never surrender. That's not that bad of a motto.
Well, on that note.
All right.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode of Trekosophy. You can find us at our website, trekosophy.com. Follow us on Facebook. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Email us at trekosophy@gmail.com. And check us out in the iTunes store. Leave us a review. We love your feedback. And if you give feedback as good as Hillary's, maybe you too could be up here someday. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next week. And until then, never give up. Okay, all together. We're going to say this one all together. You ready?
Ready.
Never give up.
Never surrender. That's going to turn out so bad.
Do it again, but you have to count down. 3, 2, 1. Never give up.
Never surrender.
We can't do it. We can't do it.
Skype. There's a delay,
Too much
Yeah,
lag.
it's the signal lag. It's not us. It's the equipment. We got a faulty beryllium sphere. All right. Until then, until next week, never give up, never surrender.
That's 90s osophy right there.
Yeah.
Can't hurt. Any excuse to drink whiskey is a good excuse.
Bill, I like the way you think.
Yeah, I've been busy with stuff that I shouldn't be busy with, I guess.
Bill, allow me to introduce you to
Hillary.
just joined us, and she's gonna, I'm sure, have to make us like totally change all our manners and not make as many misogynistic comments as we usually make, which Chris is.
That's actually going to be kind of hard because now it's Bill and Hillary in the same room, so you know it's just going to happen now.
Let's do the episode on Brandon's book when Brandon's not here. Yay!
Is Star Trek an example of deontology at its finest? Well, it depends on what your definition of is.
What's the audio equivalent of having your eyes glaze over?
It just magically goes away. You know, I mean, I have problems with the IRS. I just set up an inverse Polaron feedback loop, and suddenly I'm getting a huge tax return. You know.
But do you get extra experience points if you say something really contrived?
Like, no. You just level up every time you say that you have a bad feeling about this.
Yeah. So let me ask you though, Hillary, Riker or Data? Well, it's not even so much they're internet trolls. It's just, well, they are film students, so they're probably not seeing any rosebuds of their own. So.
Okay, Brent Spiner, like, I just have to imagine Bane breaking his spine.
They're not going sledding themselves, so they obsess over it and they see sleds everywhere, if you catch my meaning.
Come off the main lead, split off at the force activator, then reversing power leads through the force activator, repulsor beam powers against Tsiolkovsky.
Welcome to Trekosophy.
Oh, hold on. I didn't realize you were starting it there.
So
Didn't know you were ready, Bill.
It's like 4 times you said, well, we're waiting for Bill. We're waiting for Bill. All right, I'm starting. Wait, Bill, we're not ready. All right, let me go over what I'm planning on saying.
That was a legitimate thing to stop us for, wasn't
True.
it?
Okay.
Okay, don't want to waste our time. Now I'm wasting our time, aren't I?
I grabbed those hammer. What a savings.
What just happened? What? Oh, that was just him gone. Okay, sorry. I thought we lost.
Like paranoid or something. What happened? Oh no! You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. Really? Who talks like that?